Hello everybody, my name is Farmer Phil and today we are here with Father Phil and Uncle and we are going to talk about some of the history of the farm, the old ways of doing things, Grandad and whatnot. Also, big thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. More about them at the end of the video, but anyways, I suppose we'll get started. What was the first, so when Grandad come here first with the horses and that,
he ploughed the quarry field. The next day.
Came here
was
on
the quarry field or the field along the road?
the 3rd of March 1938.
Yeah.
With 2 horses, a plough, a spring-toothed harrow, and 2 bags of seed oats.
Yeah.
And there was a hole in one of the bags.
And one of the bags rubbed the
wheel of the car.
It couldn't rub the wheel of the car
There was a hole in the
because
harrow.
there was a hole rubbed on the plough or something coming over, and he lost some of the seed. But he started to plough the next day.
Yeah.
In the quarry field.
Out in the quarry field, and he sowed the 2 acres or an acre, I suppose, about an acre of oats.
Yeah.
And we never have missed a year since with tillage on the farm.
Yeah.
Since
And he says
1938.
not to plough the quarry field when we decided to plough it first. He says because you couldn't plough it was all stone.
It
Yeah.
was rocky, but that's why it's called the quarry field.
Yeah.
It's not a ball.
But it can grow.
Yeah. Grows great crops. And what? So when Grandad had that, then did he have a reaper and binder, or did someone come to do it for him?
He
or?
bought a Woods reaper and binder. I think it was advertised on the leader. I don't know who he bought it from for a £5.
Yeah.
And he bought a Samuelson mowing machine. I don't know where he bought that. And he started contracting cutting medals for the neighbours round about. He used to run 3 horses up, pulling the binder.
Yeah.
His own 2, and whoever he was going to cut for
He'd have a horse.
would have a horse, and he used to be delighted with that because their horse wouldn't be used to the reels, and he used to take off. He'd pull the binder, and his own 2 horses would just throw along one side. And he used to have a pole or a block bolted to the pole of the binder, that when the 3rd horse put a pull on the swing, he wasn't able to pull the other one's back.
Yeah.
He pulled
He made him pull the whole thing.
He made him pull the whole thing when they were all joined up with the swinging trees.
Yeah.
And the 1 horse pulled the binder, and the other 2 just walked along for till he got tired. And
Yeah. And then they started pulling.
yeah.
He man understand it.
Yeah.
And he cut, and then he bought a thrasher. I remember when he bought the thrasher, a ransom thrasher, and
And what did he drive that with then?
then the 20. He bought it when he got the first tractor in 1950.
Yeah.
A Ferguson 20. DI 3750 was the number of it.
Yeah.
And he had that for years and years and years. Himself and a man he had to drive, a fellow working here, and he used to drive 2 shifts in the mowing, at the hay
Yeah.
mowing. The biggest job was mowing that time because it was
Slow job.
slow job.
What would that be? A 5-foot finger bar?
5-foot finger bar, an acre an hour, if you were lucky.
Yeah.
With a good edge.
And they used to mow. Granddad used to mow at night, and your man would mow in the daytime if the weather was good. And a mid-mounted raspy mower.
Yeah.
He bought out from Willie Hobson in Longford.
How many acres would he have been mowing back then?
Maybe 50 or 60, I don't know really what area. But I know in the 70s then, we had 2 Massey 32 mowers. And one particular year, in 18 days, there was a great spell of weather, the last week in June and the first couple of weeks in July. And between the 2 of us, we mowed and saved and baled 300 acres.
300 acres of hay.
Yeah.
Hey.
And that was called a finger bar mower.
With a finger bar mower.
And a PZ hay bob, or was it short?
No,
How did you shake it out there?
Gearless rake.
A Bamford gearless rake.
Gearless rake. It turned 2 rows over at the one time.
Right.
It just flipped the sword right upside down.
Yeah.
We
It was a genius.
used to mow until dinner time, and then he'd go off
Start turning.
turning and rowing up. And some
So the medals that time were light now.
and some men would have their own, possibly a PZ transverse rake and a Ferguson 20, and they'd do the turning.
Yeah.
And I'd start bailing then at 3 or 4 o'clock.
What square baler had you then?
A New Holland 276.
No, we had a few different bailers.
Well, a few different bailers, but we ended up with the New Holland. We used to make 40,000 bales a year.
Small square bales.
Small square bales.
You'd love them.
Oh.
Complete heartbreakers.
Yeah. I've seen some people commenting idiot bales, as they call them.
Yeah, they left lots of men in the graveyard.
Yeah.
All right,
It
if
was
hay was
horrible.
dry and things.
Aye, and fit, and not too much manure in it, the bales wouldn't be too heavy.
Yeah.
But it was heavily manure.
Then
and
nitrogen
not
come on
overfit.
the scene then, and
Oh, that ended the hay.
that finished the hay.
Yeah.
And the finger are more. The whole lot died at the one around the one time.
We got the rotary more.
The rotary mower then in 1976,
76.
the first. We traded in one of the massey mowers for a class 2-drum rotary mower.
Yeah.
And
They're the ones with the top hat, drum mowers, as that.
yeah. Oh, it's still around.
Two drums.
Yeah.
It's still around.
2 drum.
And
On the
yeah,
35.
it was a great
On
mower.
the 35.
Yeah.
With the fair load, the 35. That 35.
That's 35X we have. That's
Yeah.
what run it.
Yeah.
We've done it.
And so when Granda was at the reaping and binding then, when he went away from the horses and got the 20, what reaper and binder had he then?
He had several. He had.
But he probably adapted that whole one.
No,
Did he?
I don't know did he cut the ball on that one, but he bought a reaper
the corner.
binder then. Was a man by the name of Taylor over at Corby. Was a kind of an import. He used to buy machines and bring them in, and he was a kind of a machinery dealer.
Yeah.
And he'd buy a mower and do his own one, and then he'd sell it.
Yeah.
And he bought a deering binder, a very, very fresh one. I remember the day we went over for it. I was only about 5 or 6, and I remember going over on the 20 with him.
Yeah.
I lived on the tractor when I was small, and we went over to collect the binder, and I think it was in the month of May. It was a scorching hot day anyway. I remember the day well, over to Taylor's to collect the binder, and he had that then for a good few years. He wore out that binder, and then he bought one at a 6-foot cut. It was an international harvester. Well, it would be very much the same as the deering now. They were all basically one. I think the two companies merged
Yeah.
after, and he had that then. That was the last binder he had then.
And when they made the sheaves of stuff, how did they do with them then to
You had
store
to stoop them.
Just looked at
And an army of men. Now, I tell you, there wasn't 2 or 3 men.
Pure stay for it.
9 or 10 men went around the field. The way he got about 3 or 4 rounds of the field cut,
Done.
and then
Yeah.
they started standing them up, stood them up in stooks,
Like stacking square bales.
Yeah.
and you left them there then for. They used to say
See, the cut had a
3
little
weeks.
bit. The cut had a little bit kind of green when it was
Yeah.
turning a small bit.
Yeah.
Oh, so they wouldn't cut it when it was ripe.
No, you couldn't.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't
it'd
cut
shed.
through.
Yeah.
It'd shed.
And you cut it a little bit on the unripe side.
Yeah.
Ripened in the
Small
sun.
bit, no, not very unripe, but just, and then that was hand stacked. It was all put into stacks,
Yeah.
and then they were brought in. Sometimes it was brought in over the stooks and built into stacks in the haggard, and more times it was put into hand stacks. And we brought them in with a buck rake and thrashed them straight away
Whenever we going on.
whenever the grain was
And there'd be an
needed.
army of men went to thrashing as well.
Thrashed it
Yeah.
into be 6 or 7 men.
And what was done with the straw then?
It was built in a stack.
In a
and
stack and it was used for bedding.
Used
Odd
up.
fellas used to come and they'd be looking for rotten straw for thatching. There was thatched houses at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember several fellas pulling where there'd be a stack of straw, and they'd pull the bottom of it, pulling the straw. It had to be all the one. You had to pull it to get it all in the one direction
Yeah.
for thatching. And it was used, and it was fed the cows, and it was fed the cattle, and like the greenish straw
Everything
was
was
good,
used.
was good enough
Yeah.
feeding. And then the combines in '74 we got the first combine.
Massey 780
780
special.
Isn't it special?
Yeah, and after that the rest is history. Combine took over. Once
Once the combine come in, all that we
the
finished.
binder finished, 1 year after that, the binder, nobody had bothered with the binder after that. It was a spears hand.
You didn't have to because it was it cut out so much work.
Cut
Yeah.
out, yeah.
Cut out
Fresh.
the army of men to come.
Oh
to
yeah,
do
well the
it.
men were gone anyway because all the young fellas round here were all gone working on board the Mona or on DSB,
Yeah.
and there
That
was great money to
generation,
be
the
earned.
generation that went round with them machines were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, the full-time farmer, like all the young.
But sure, everyone grew 2 acres of corn and a half an acre of spuds.
Yeah.
He spent his whole time sowing, ploughing, sowing. Wouldn't be much spraying that time,
Yeah.
and then cutting the corn and digging the spuds.
This time of the year now, you'll be digging spuds every day. He bought a Lister Blackstone digger in Cummins and Granard.
Yeah.
They were the agents for
Spinner.
Lister
A
Black.
spinner, so it just tossed over the
and
drill.
he dug with the horses at the start. With his,
The horses that well trained that he didn't have to work the horses.
Oh.
When he did the line of spuds,
Yeah.
he'd tell them to go back and the horse would go back round. I often heard him tell it. to go back round and stand in the next drill till he went back down.
On the road, because if there was chickweed around growing on the spuds, or there was a heavy
He'd be
crop of
pulling down.
Yeah, he used to have a grape and he'd go along and throw that out of the way to keep it from clogging up
From the next drill.
Yeah.
And the horses, they done that much of it that they
were just that well
used
trained.
to it every day, that's what they done. And they walked round, they done the idle run.
Yeah.
And then he...
And he didn't like heavy horses, he loved Irish draft.
Yeah.
He says you needed a bit of blood in them for the stamina to keep going.
Yeah.
Oh, but that was big work.
You couldn't run them out.
That was big work.
Yeah.
And if you get half a tractor, you turn the key and that's it. But when you come home, the horses had to be
fed and
watered and cared for.
The horses ate the half of what they produced.
Yeah.
Took the half of the what you had to feed the horses.
Yeah.
Nearly the half of the
hay. If they weren't well looked after, they were no good.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Oh, he always looked after them well. And
the field along the road, that's where the horses.
I rode the last horses here, yeah. Last horse here, he bought him from Skellyman and Unancashel a fall at October Fair in Longford. But he bid him for the fall, and this man wouldn't take the money. And Grandad said to him, look, he says, if you think you take it, leave him at the house on your way home.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where we were when we come back, the fall was in the yard.
Yeah.
And that was the last horse was here.
Yeah.
We grew into an enormous big horse. And he sold him then when he got the track. I remember him the day he went. No.
Yeah.
Man that bought him.
No, but he'd been tricking with horses and he'd been tricking with the tractor for a good few years as well.
Yeah, well, been trying doing.
There were different jobs, different things done.
The horse was used to sow the turnips and probably sprayed the spuds. He had an old horse sprayer that you had to pump with a handle yourself.
Yeah. And
the horse pulled it along. It was like a cart with a barrel on it.
Yeah.
And they were used for spraying the spuds because they didn't damage the stalks. They walked through that.
It all had for a few years that there'd been a crossover between the tractor
and the horse.
Yeah, the horse. Things that eventually the horse just went.
Yeah.
And
what about during World War II? Like you were saying the compulsory tillage.
Well, that was after the war when there was.
It was after the war. That was.
Well, during and after the war, there was everybody.
Everyone had to till because it was
all depended on what they call the poor law valuation. Every farm was valued.
Yeah.
And if it was good land, the valuation was high, and if it was bad land, the valuation was low. And under a certain threshold, then you hadn't to till because your land was too bad for to have tillage. But over that, round here, everybody had to till.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, there was a certain area you had to put in.
It had to be a certain area.
Area stuff had to be sown, and that was during the war and then after the war.
After the war, for years after, because they couldn't. Countries were broke.
Starving. That's where the Belgian blue cattle originated in Belgium.
Yeah.
They were bred to produce vast quantities of red meat.
Yeah.
Because meat was so scarce after there was nothing left after the war.
Yeah.
And the Belgian blues evolved from that. They were bred in Belgium for to produce.
Well, you were his age now when the war was going on.
Yeah.
You were the same age as he was now.
When the war was going on.
When he was here.
He come here in 1938. The war started in 39.
Till 45.
And there was no tyre. You couldn't get a tyre for a bike. You couldn't get a tyre for a car.
It was all steel wheel. Anything that came out.
I heard Granny saying she stuffed a tyre with hay.
With hay?
Yeah.
Of a bike.
Of a bike with hay to bring her in and out. She was working in McCormick's at the time.
Yeah.
And they were wool merchants, potato merchants, grain merchants. And the seed would be coming in the spring, and they bought the grain back then in the harvest.
Yeah.
And it was different times.
Yeah. Is there anything else you remember Grandad or Granny saying about that time?
Well, there was rationing. You had rationing books.
Oh yeah.
You could only buy a certain amount of sugar or a certain amount of tea.
You had your own butter.
You had your own butter. You had your own milk.
But the people would have had a lot of their own stuff that time.
Be very self-sufficient back then.
Well, yeah, because everyone grew spuds and everyone had the little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Your great granny, your granny's mammy, used to churn and sell the butter in the town.
Yeah.
When they lived close to the town.
They lived close to the town.
Yeah.
And she went every 2 or 3 days to town with her bicycle load of butter in shopping bags hanging on the bike, and she'd wheel it into the town, and she had her customers she went to.
Mr. Dick, he done this, the boss done the same. He went in with his lock of split sticks.
Right, the timber. He sold the timber in the town.
Oh, every winter, that's what he done. He cut trees and he split timber. He used to sell it to a couple of hotels in the town.
A load of timber and two bags of spuds. That used to be the weekly order to a couple of was a hotel down at the bottom of the town, Stoker's Hotel.
Yeah.
And
but that kept them going.
Yeah, it was money.
kept the thing taking over.
There was nothing else.
Yeah.
There was nothing else. That's what he done. Then he had old orchard. Then when he got it up and going, he had apples, and he used to have and bees. He was different for bees.
He had 18 beehives, and he used to send the honey to the dairy engineering company in Bachelor's Walk in Dublin on the train. They send down the boxes and he put the honey into the boxes and
send them
on the train on the railway to Dublin.
What you were saying about there was a grant at the time we put in the orchard, or there
probably was something, yeah.
There was
a great agricultural
horticultural advisor in Dublin at the time.
Yeah.
And he had them all at that, throwing bits of orchards and fruit gardens. But there was nothing, so they had to generate stuff. You know?
And there was as well as trees, there was apple trees, there was sallies or willows for basket making.
Oh, you grew willows for basket making?
Yeah, and the horses had to skid the bark or at them, and they died out anyway.
Yeah.
But that was the way. You had to do that, or you were
tough times.
Yeah.
You think you're tough in tough times now? There's nothing to what it was like then.
Yeah.
They were tough times.
And then you come on, and the tractors changed, and they got bigger and bigger, and they're out. So
he done a haul with the Ferguson 20. He could never understand why we had so many tractors, because he done everything with the Ferguson 20. With two
Ferguson 20s.
Yeah. Changed oil every Saturday night.
Every Saturday changed oil.
In the busy time of the year. He come in on a Saturday night and get oil out of it.
Yeah.
And he'd fill her up again fresh Monday morning with new oil. It would drain over the weekend.
Yeah.
Every week, once a week, the oil was changed.
During the silage and the harvest.
Well, during the hay.
No silage.
No silage.
Yeah, no silage. Yeah.
Hay and whenever we're harvesting, he would thrashing and whatever he'd be at.
Yeah.
And we told me that several times.
Jeez. Servicing every week.
Yeah, every week. When he bought the first 20, they told him he had to do them 18 months, and it took him 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, before he ever to do it.
Before he ever do it.
Yeah.
And that tractor was traded in for the TVO 35. The one that's out there in the shed.
The gold belly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one that's out there in the shed.
Yeah.
We don't know where it went after that.
No.
We have the first one, his father, our great grandfather.
Our grandfather.
My great grandfather.
He had it about 6 months before that.
Yeah.
They got him below name bags.
It come off the Hertford estate in Kells.
In Kells. We have it.
Yeah.
We have it out there.
It's on 3 pallets.
Project.
It's on 3 pallets.
So we get it going. It's a very early Ferguson 20. It was built probably in 46. And they would have bought it. It was second hand when they bought it. And it could have been late 49 now or early 1950.
Yeah, when they got it.
He seen how good the tractor was. And he had one within a couple of months of them getting one.
Yeah.
We used to bury it, didn't he?
Well,
he would have done.
Well, maybe he did, but he bought the tractor anyway. It was registered in Roscommon. I don't exactly know who owned it in Roscommon. DI 3750 was that.
Yeah.
Then he had a Ford Ferguson.
He had a Ford Ferguson.
Well, he had a Ford Ferguson.
Yeah.
A 2N. Or 9N.
It could have been a 9N. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. It was scrapped.
Yeah.
Wasn't it scrapped as well?
Yeah.
It was scrapped.
Because he sold the last of it to a fellow from Elphin, had one of them, and he sold the whole chunk of it to him. The back end of it, your man was bringing bits out of it every week, and he drove a lorry for Larrigan.
The 2Ns was built on steel wheels.
Yeah.
Because there was no rubber. The one we have was a 2N, and it was built on steel wheels, and then the rubber wheels came
after that.
But it was a French built one.
Yeah.
It was it came out of France.
Well, came out of France.
Yeah, that one we have.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what your man told me. He picked it up off of an England that bought it in France.
Or the Ford Ferguson we have.
Yeah.
That's the one we have is a 2N.
It's 2N, yeah. It's 42.
Yeah.
So.
Is there any other stories or anything from back then?
Sure.
There's
lots of stories. Some of them probably can't be put on camera.
Well, some of them can't, but the ones that you think can. Because even the ones that can't be put on camera and put on YouTube, I still want to have them.
Yeah, well, sure. We'll do another bit.
But he was the first man, your granddad, round here to use a Bordizzo.
Squeezers.
Yeah.
But
he was never afraid of change.
He bought it in some of the chemist shops in Lamport.
Little short handles.
Yeah, it's out there, still there.
Still there.
Yeah. And I need to kick I got with it. But anyway.
No, you were working at that time in sheds with cattle being tied up. There was no
crush.
No one had thought what a crush even was.
He used to castrate calves for well, it could take 4 or 5 or 6 evenings in the springtime. They wouldn't do them until be letting them out. Everyone, they say, Harry, what 5 or 6 calves to squeeze, and he'd go in and do them. And that was, he never took money for it.
Yeah.
It was just done. And his father said, "Oh no, you'd never use that yoke." And but anyway, they got curious and they got him down one evening to do a lot of calves, so he never used the knife after.
But it was a brutal way they used to do it before that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they used to knife them.
Knife them, yeah.
Yeah.
And there was no anesthetic around at that time.
Oh yeah, I don't know what was that was, but you were catching an animal and tying them up. That was an art in itself.
Just and then being able to restrain it so you could work on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you hadn't the right lad on the rope.
You'd get kicked.
You'd get kicked.
Yeah.
You'd be worse off than that. But anyway.
Yeah.
And then the Berdizo, the bloodless method of doing it.
Yeah.
Completely.
Yeah.
And the Grandad used to saw timber, didn't he?
Yeah.
So he saw timber, but that came with him, you see, because that's all they done. That's what they done in the home place.
Yeah.
In Enbegs. That's what they done. They
had a sawmill.
They had a sawmill.
They had a sawmill.
They had a sawmill.
Yeah.
The crushed corn. They done all the.
They made cartwheels.
And barrels.
Your granduncle Jack made cartwheels.
Yeah.
And barrels.
And himself and Jackie Hughes made cartwheels. And there was 3 types of timber used in the cartwheel. There was the centre hub. Well, ideally, he told me one time there was 3 types of timber. Now you could make it all up with the one timber.
Yeah.
But they used whitethorn for the hub.
Yeah.
They used ash for the spokes.
Yeah.
And elm for the fellas. Do you know what the fella is?
The fella is the round, is it?
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
The half round. And then they were brought down to the forge, the local forge, to be shod.
Yeah.
And they had to cut the hoop to go around the outside, the shoeing, the steel shoeing, 3/4 of an inch shorter than you measure the
size of it.
The size, and you cut it 3/4 of an inch shorter. Then they done a forge weld on it.
Yeah.
Then they heated up the whole thing, put it down over the wheel, and hammered it down, and then cooled it.
Yeah.
And you hear the whole thing creaking.
It just tightened the whole thing.
Pull the whole lot together.
Yeah.
Cooled, yeah. That
And
was very special.
That shoeing,
very special.
There was no need to. It never was fixed to the wheel. Like it just
didn't have.
It just
so
shrunk
tight.
into it.
Yeah.
It just
But then when they get loose and a bit of rot had started in the yoke, then they used to get loose and they used to drill them and put a nail in them, and it was.
Yeah, well, that was a very special art. Now.
Yeah.
But that's what they had done. They
made carpets and they made barrels for the council.
They'd spend the whole time below saw.
Yeah.
And then he come up here and he started the same crack. He got a bit of a saw bench, but then there was no such thing as tipping into the builders providers. So you couldn't buy lengths of timber like that. You had
to bring the tree up and then get it sawed up into planks and
at that time.
Yeah.
Well, I remember the saw going on in the quarry.
Yeah.
The big saw bench in the quarry.
Well, it was in the shed first.
I was in the shed first, and then they took it out there and put it into the outside, where you could get a loader. I had to move the timber.
Yeah.
That was a job in itself.
But the time they built the extension onto the house, that was in 1950. I was 3 or 4, 56 or 57. Himself and the lad who was working here, Jody Murray at the time. Jody was a great old character, and they left here in the one morning with a crosscut. Now that's the no chainsaws.
Yeah.
And they went down to carry Glasswood. I had a tree bought from the Lafroy family, and they cut down the tree. They loaded it up on the trailer. They brought it down to Ian Beggs. They sawed it up the tree, and they come home with a load of timber.
Yeah.
In a day.
For the roof.
For the roof.
Yeah.
And for the floorboards and
that
was the tree come on carry glass.
Yeah. So the roof and the extension of the house inside was cut out of a tree. Got come from
carry glass
estate.
But that's what this estate done. They had big timber like that, and they sawed off a tree here and there.
Yeah.
That's what they done.
Yeah. And then Grandad used to. I remember you saying he crushed grain for people.
It used to be Thursday, there was crushing day.
Yeah.
It was twice a week then it was.
And it got Thursday was crushing day, and then the march started at Ballymahan on a Thursday. So the crushing had to be moved back to Wednesday.
Right.
Because you couldn't go to the march and be crushing.
Yeah.
And from 9 o'clock in the morning until 7 or 8 at night, you'd be.
Because all the people that grew their 2 acres of corn had to have a way of processing it, and he had done crusher.
Pierce crusher.
A ton an hour.
At
best.
Crusher and what they call a kibler.
A grinder.
It ground it up into meal. You ground it up for the pigs.
Yeah.
And you rolled it for the cattle.
How do you drive that then?
With the 20
20 and a pulley.
and a flat belt.
In the crushing house, the whole
Yeah.
wall out through and the tractor used
All
to be
there
outside.
still.
Yeah, we'll show you when we're cleaning out the scrap out. We'll show you what's in it.
We've got a few changes in latter years, but that's
Yeah. And what then? That was all in your 100 wet bags and.
Oh, yeah.
You were lucky if it was in 100 wet bags. There was a big tall bag. They called it a barrel bag.
Yeah.
Because it held a barrel in volume.
20 stone.
And that was 12 stone of oats,
Yeah.
14 stone of barley, and 16 stone of wheat.
16 stone of wheat.
That's 200 weight of wheat.
Yeah.
And they had to be thrown up on the top of the crusher to run in.
Yeah.
There's no wonder people.
And
there was a blue stripe.
that's a good lift, like nearly up over your head.
Over your
maybe.
head.
Why do you think I have a bad back?
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to ride with two of them in the boot of an escort.
And the booth.
No, Morris Minor.
Where's mine?
There was escorts weren't even out at the time.
Oh, well, there was an escort when I was at it.
Yeah. And ponies and carts, asses and carts, horses and carts.
Yeah.
That went on all winter. But then it was like a social thing because they came and they'd have a chat.
And
You
they
know,
have their turns to just
And then they'd have maybe another fella that wouldn't be speaking to another lad and he'd come over Saturday.
It used to be Saturday then as well. We used to do maybe a half day on a Saturday.
Saturday.
What I seen, we would never get him pulling up for the dinner. He'd come into the dinner and I'd keep the crusher going, and then he'd come out and I'd go in and eat the dinner. We kept going.
Just to keep it going.
Yeah.
Because that's the way
Oh, they
it
came
is.
from all around.
Yeah.
216 for 100 wet bag. 216 100 wet.
To roll it.
To roll it or crush it or whatever it was all the one price.
Yeah.
And you'd come in there and you'd
There's a
have
few bob.
you could have 30 quid for the day, and it was big money.
Yeah.
At that time, that was a lot
That
of
time
money.
it was an awful pile of money.
Yeah.
For the thing, when it was in the winter time, but not next going on.
Yeah.
All in silver there, you get everyone paid. You never
paid
ask
for-
anybody.
You paid for every time. There's no such thing as put that in the book.
Yeah. Put on the count.
No, they were 100%
It was a
everybody.
different time.
And then there'd be a fella come with, there was one particular fella used to come with a pony, and the pony had an arty getting his winkers off or the head collar off, and he'd tie him below where at the pier in the yard. The pier is still there, and he was busy. He was always a great fella for chatting everybody. He wouldn't be man. The next thing he was the pony and get the winkers off and turn in the yard and a wheel like hell for the road, and there'd have to be a bicycle gone after the pony, and they'd get him. He'd go home.
Yeah.
And several times he went home with the bag of stuff on the cart, not crushed, and he'd have to come back.
He'd go in and he'd start chatting and he wouldn't take it off.
Yeah.
So it's changed times.
Yeah.
That's it. That was
But you were still doing. what
Still
we were
doing it,
Just different.
In a bigger scale.
It's just different.
Instead of a ton of an hour, we're rolling what? 10 ton,
10,
15 ton
10,
an
12
hour.
ton an hour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Depends on the stuff. It all depends.
All depends if you got a bag, or there was a few fellas used to get their corn dried, and they'd come down with it, and boy would that fly through.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's the same today.
Yeah.
You got an extra corn.
It'd fly through,
Yeah.
and then you'd have the fella come on with the where it got damp in the stack, and it was
a bit heat in it.
maybe trashed up a wet day and maybe not well cleaned, and that would absolutely crucify you.
Yeah.
To stick in down hopper, wouldn't come down.
It wouldn't run, and it wouldn't do this, and it wouldn't that, and it wouldn't come out. It used to go, it wouldn't come out of the kibble right if you cut it too fine.
But it wouldn't kibble right.
No,
No,
you
it's
couldn't
sticky.
not
It
just
nearly
roll it,
Yeah.
It's stick in it.
sticking in it, and it used to jam
Oh,
out.
the noise of the kibble was something else though.
That's the grind. That's for grinding.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You'd
The earmuffs, there's no such thing as earmuffs at the time.
Yeah.
Well, you would hear nothing for
You
2
hear
days
it
after.
screaming here at the road.
The noise of it was
Yeah.
terrible. Two
Must put it
discs.
go. Must put it go. Well, have
Oh, well,
Two of them now.
Two of them. We get selection of stuff.
Yeah.
If you ever get
Just
time to put it
putting
together.
it all together.
You want to buy another plant trailer and put it all on it and put an
Yeah.
engine in the middle of it and run the whole
Run the
thing.
whole. We have the engine. We have the Turner diesel.
Yeah, the V2.
Yeah.
but, that's it. Change times now.
Yeah.
Well, it's changed. But he done exactly what was done in his hometown.
Yeah.
He just brought it over to this part of the country
Yeah.
and started off here.
Your grandfather was the first man, your great grandfather was the first man to grow potatoes in drills in County Offaly.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was always the ridges was
The
dug.
ridges before that.
Dug the ridges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they used to plough them, but there was an art into
There was an
it,
art,
all the
yeah.
coping, and there was special ploughs and that for doing it. But he started tilling up the ground and ploughing it twice or 3 times, and then the rohabears come on the scene, and the Howell rohabear, and that was revolutionised the tilling.
It was a
Yeah.
godsend as that, I suppose.
And that's the tractor job, was there?
Old tractor. You know.
Oh, yeah.
With the tractor, yeah.
They had a horse thrasher.
Yeah.
You know what that was?
No.
No.
It was a fixed drum in the shed,
in the barn.
in the barn, in hay bags.
Yeah.
And there was
It
shaft.
was all around the country.
But there was a shaft came out, and it went to a centre pot,
Yeah.
and there was 2 poles and 2 horses.
No, 1 pole and 1 horse.
But depending on which one, there was some of those number 2.
No,
but they had one with one.
no. 1 pole and 1
Centre
horse.
centre pot.
And 2 horses. Pulling the 1 pole, you had a big horse and a small horse.
Yeah.
And you put the big horse on the outside and the small horse on the inside. And then they went round in a circle.
Just in a circle.
Anti-clockwise, I think they went. Yeah, well, they all depended on the way it was geared. But
Depending on what way it's set up.
your great-granddad was a kind of an enterprising sort of a guy, so he come along and he tied a bag of hay on the pole.
So you sat on the pole going round.
with the horses,
With the horses.
and you had the whip to keep them going.
Not let it stop.
Yeah.
And he was in the barn feeding the thrasher, you see.
Your
Yeah.
great grandfather.
And he
Boss was
shouted out at your granddad, he was only
But I
8.
think got the call for the dinner.
No, he shouted out at your granddad, he says, Harry, he says, speed them up a bit there now, I could do with a bit more speed than this, shock. So your granddad threw the whip, hit the big horse with the whip, and the next thing was the pole come up out of the ground. And that was the end of the thrasher.
No more thrashing.
No more thrasher.
That was the end of the horse trash.
So then they had to get the mill,
Right.
the
I
thrasher.
think it was they got the shout for the dinner and they had a small bit to do.
Was that it?
I think so,
Aye.
yeah, because it was. I spent 5 years going to sheep things.
Yeah.
And we'd be travelling for 2 hours in the car, and them 2 hours was just story after story after story.
Yeah.
And you just get hard to remember them. Now somebody may heard them
You could be
for.
right, I think it was.
I think they were called for it. I think your great grandmother let her shout that the dinner was ready in 5 minutes, and they had 10 minutes thrashing to do.
Yeah.
And his father let her roar, "We'll hurry them up there, Harry. We'll have it done before the dinner."
Yeah.
And he let in the whip and made
Just pulled it apart.
Oh, when
whole
the
lot.
horses put on the pressure up the pole,
the whole lot came out of it, and that was the last. Never was a hop after.
No, that was the end of it.
That was the end of it.
How that? So there was a pole went outside, and the horses drove
There was
down.
but there was a
and then
ring
there
gear, a ring
There was
gear,
a ring
you see.
gear
Yeah.
and a
shaft.
shaft
Yeah.
come in. Oh, so it was a crude now.
Yeah.
And that the horses had to step across the shaft.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
but it was buried in the ground. It was down.
Oh, it was-
Yeah, it was down in the ground.
But they had to.
They
And
had to
it was all
go.
geared up then to drive. The thrashing drum was still below.
Yeah.
It's one at Turk as well.
Yeah, but that was in most
Most farms
industrious
had
farms, should
Yeah.
we say? It wouldn't
Yeah.
be in every farm, but in most industrious. But that was before they had the mobile thrasher.
Yeah.
There was only a trash and drum, you
There's
see.
only a drum,
And it
you see.
all went out on a pile on the ground.
Oh, and then you had to
straw.
sort everything out then.
Then you had the
And
winning
the winning
machine. And you
Oh, so the grain and the straw, the whole lot just pegged down onto the ground.
Yeah.
It was deadly dangerous, look.
Yeah.
what? And you had to shake the straw.
It was
over it.
fucking deadly dangerous.
Oh, deadly dangerous.
Deadly dangerous.
Deadly.
There wasn't a gardener, there never was such thing as a gardener.
Health and safety
Yeah.
never was even mentioned.
Oh.
They weren't even thought of at the time.
Yeah.
Unreal.
That's what. Then they had to pull the straw and everything away.
Oh, and
yeah.
then you
And
got
then
the
you
winning
had to-
machine then and you put it through it. And
The winning machine, and you had to one man winding it.
Oh, it's sure,
And-
the work was...
What? That was to like a
Clean it
fan
up.
just to blow the
Yeah.
chaff off the grain.
And it's a very
Same
serious
as your
combine.
your
fan on the
sieves and
combine.
your shaking sieve and your fan and your combine.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it was when he was driven by a cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'd run all day
yeah.
on a cup of tea.
Yes,
Yeah.
by hand.
Yeah.
He would just stand there running this wheel. There's a big long handle on it.
Yeah.
And then your 2 hands on it and you kept going like this. Oh,
You
it's
got
all
to speed up.
It's all below.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, still blowing in the bags.
yeah.
The winning machine.
Yeah.
The winning machine.
And that was the prize because the winning machine. You see, they grew their own oats for their porridge, and the winning machine was there. That was there to clean it, to get all the chaff and all the weed
Oh,
seeds out of
hulls
it.
and everything out of it. And should there be weeds and everything?
Oh yeah, because there was no spray at the time.
Yeah.
You had a bread shanking, you had a
No, but you were
transporter.
growing a ton. If you were a good crop, it was a ton to the acre.
Yeah.
Maybe not even.
Yeah.
Less than a ton.
What then? That to grind that then to have the porridge.
They had to go to the mill. It had to be run over to the mill.
When I was over to a mill now, that wouldn't be.
There was
Oh, it was brought to someone to mill it.
Right,
Yeah.
there'd be what? A mill every
what sort of
10 mile of the road.
Yeah.
Wherever there was a good water supply.
Yeah.
And there'd be a mill there, probably be dried and
Well, there was a mill in Ballinlee. There was a mill in where we don't. There was a mill out there the road. There was one in Clontarf. There was one in Grilla.
Mosstown.
There was one in Mosstown.
yeah.
It was
The
burned.
one then below.
That's the mill,
Clondra.
Grilla mill.
Oh, that's
and
great.
Clondra.
And Clondra.
Big
Yeah.
mill in Clondra. Well,
Big
all the
mill
same,
in
it was all
Clondra.
there was
Yeah,
a good supply of water.
Yeah, there was a mill in the town.
Yeah.
Then they had millers' rights, then they could flood land to hold back the water to run the mill.
Run the mill during the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, I think we'll leave it at that. And sure, there's probably lots more stories that could be told, but we'll leave it at that for today anyways. So a quick word from our sponsor today's video, Squarespace. Big thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. If you don't know who Squarespace are, Squarespace gives people a powerful and beautiful online platform from which to create your very own website. They have beautiful and award-winning designer templates, so you can literally go on, you can look through and you can find a template that suits your needs for whatever kind of website you want to create. They have an all-in-one platform, so there's nothing to install, patch or upgrade ever. You'll also receive their award-winning 24/7 customer support. Squarespace allows you to create any kind of website you want, whether you want to create a new business online store kind of setup, or whether you want to showcase musical talents or your video skills. It literally, whatever kind of a website you want to create, you can do it with them. Even if it's just something for the crack, or you're creating a web page for something, definitely recommend it. Our website that we've been working on is just about finished. Little few more tweaks to put in it, but one thing I can say about it, it's quite easy to use, but the finished product is really good. You can even take that from Father Phil. We've impressed him with the job we've done on the website we've created with using Squarespace. Top notch stuff, so it is. Definitely, I would highly recommend it. If you want to check it out for yourself, go to squarespace.com/farmerphil for your free trial and 10% off your first purchase of a website and a domain name. So that is it from us. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions to ask. Videos every Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday. That is it from us. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Good luck.